Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about crafting in a post 3.14 world. Of course I am still sick, apologies for that, but I still wanted to make a video. So here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about how we made this bow, and then we'll also talk about a few other items as well and how you can make them, and how deterministic crafting still is very much alive and well. And what that deterministic crafting actually looks like, so you guys can decide whether you want to do it or not, and if you do want to do it, how you can get out into it. So without further ado, let's talk about it. So this bow here was the upgrade to this character. We were using a Awakened 2 mod bow before. It was using more damage and dex stacking with a multi-modder, which was 2 mods. This bow here is a 3 mod bow with better mods. It's got the arrows and the added cold. It doesn't actually have the more damage though, which I would have preferred than the other call, but it is what it is. And then it's also got the multi-mod, which is, it's pretty good. Now this bow here was actually way more expensive to make though. It requires a lot of, repetitive inputs to get it, and it cannot actually be mass produced. So an interesting fact, this bow is actually created in the same way that you used to mass produce dexterity stacking bows back in the day. You go from a blue base with 2 mods on it all the way up to Hunter and then multi-mod. So this bow used to cost around 13 or 14x. Now it's likely that it costs 50x probably with the T2 cold on it. With the T1 cold on it, probably way more. Which is pretty crazy. So yeah, this bow is definitely much more expensive than what it used to be, and it's not exactly that insane, but it is a pretty good bow nonetheless. So let's get into how we made it and how many weapons will be made in the new league deterministically. So generally, if you're trying to make a weapon for your build, you're looking at wanting to get 3 modifiers. Getting more than that is really hard. And then you go 3 mods, multi-mod, done. That's kind of where you're at. You can pretty much pick the mods you want to some extent, as long as one of them is forcible with harvest, but we'll get into how to do that in a second. So we were using alterations on a blank non-influence base. The reason you do it on a non-influence is it's much easier to roll the really rare mods. So for example, the bow attacks by 2 different additional arrows here. That is much easier to roll without all the influence modifiers in the pool, which is pretty good. So yeah, we're rolling that with alterations. You keep rolling until you hit it, and then you imprint it with a Cricut Grimro. That is going to be pretty good. So imprinting that is strong, and that is basically the first step. If you have 2 modifiers, you then need to use an annulment orb on it, and then hope that it goes down to a 1 modifier, which is your arrows or whatever you want. And then at that point when you get to 1 mod, you imprint it again. And this is the expensive part. You need to imprint and then regal every single time. Just keep going. Imprint, regal, imprint, regal, imprint, regal, imprint, regal, until you hit a modifier that you're happy with. So in this case, T2 cold, obviously you would want the T1 version of it. If you're an elemental hit bow, you'd want +2 gem levels or something like that. If you're some other build, you may want fire or dot multi or something like that. You take what you want, but you're basically using the Cricut Grimros as a way to continually roll 1 modifier over and over again. Now these are actually pretty expensive, and I expect them to be more expensive in the future. They're basically the main way you craft weapons now, and they will be pretty expensive, I think, indeed. So yeah, you keep going with that. It's going to take, 80, 90 sometimes of these frogs to hit what you want. But the upside is that you can sell bases, which you may want for other players to get money back to basically buy more frogs. So, overall, it's not too bad. You won't lose too much money, but rolling it is probably going to cost you like 20 or 30 exalts just in frogs alone. That's not that bad when you're considering an endgame weapon, but it is quite a staggering amount, and it's certainly a fairly tedious task to buy all those and then roll all of those. You need a ton of beasts, and that will be a mission in general. So yeah, your bow now looks like it's got 2 arrows. It's got cold damage, in my case T2 cold damage, and now you want to get the last modifier on there, and this is where harvest actually comes into play. So to get it into a hunter state, you actually need to first imprint it and then regal it, because the bow needs to be rare in order for it to be exalted, and also for it to be multi-modded. So you need to regal it, and if you hit a good mod, awesome. But if you hit a trash mod, you then need to annul that. And that is going to be a 1 in 3 to miss or hit. And if you miss, imprint it back again, more frogs. And then you have to obviously save it again, bring it back up, until you get a 2 mod rare item with the modifiers you want. At that point, this is where the Hunter's Exalted Orbs come into play. So then you need to slam a Hunter's Exalted Orb on it. If you hit the Dexterity stacking cold, wow, awesome, dude, you're an RNG mastermind. But if you don't, then you need to annul the Hunter mod, and then you've got a 2 mod Hunter bow. If you miss that annulment orb, well, you guessed it, back to the frogs, dude, ribbit. You've got to go back to the blue base, wriggle it all the way back up, and then get back to the Hunter, and then annul that. So in the end, you'll have a cold damage, arrows, bow, and then what you want to do is you want to go multi-mod, so 3 crafted modifiers, and then you want to go prefixes can't be changed, suffixes can't be changed, and then you want to use the harvest craft here, reforge a rare item with a root new modifier, including a cold modifier, and that is going to guarantee give you dexterity stacking for your bow. There's a bunch of other things that you can do for stuff like elemental hit bows, which is deterministic and guaranteed. And it is going to be another craft that is very, very similar to this if you're an elemental hit player. But yeah, this is just the dexterity stacking version. After you, of course, get that dex stacking mod off your iron there, you want to remove the multi-mod and then put a new multi-mod on and then get the stats you actually want. So, a massive consumption of Exalted Orbs there just to get that. And that's kind of how we made the bow, start to finish. And kind of reflecting on that, the main ingredient there you'll notice is the Kraken Chimeras, which come from bestiary. So farming them will be incredibly lucrative. And harvest came in there at the end, but it's just a reforge, so it's nothing crazy. You don't need to farm for that really much. Anyone can do that by just putting it on their map device really quick. But a big consumption as well is Exalted Orbs. And I do believe that is probably one of the reasons why they're so expensive right now, because you need to use 2 for the multi-mod, 2 for prefixes can't be changed, and 2 for suffixes can't be changed. That's 6. And then, actually, no, I think it's 1 and 1. So that's 4. And then you wipe that off after you get your harvest mod. And then you put a new multi-mod on. That's another 2. So that's 6. And then, any other crafts and modifiers you need. So if you're doing another craft, maybe that's another exalt there as well. So, it gets very expensive. And those exalted orbs are actually being destroyed. They're getting taken out of the economy. So a massive, massive drawdown on the exalted orbs. Every time someone makes a bow like this, it's going to cost overall the economy 6 exalted orbs out, which is going to be a big consumption. If 10 people make the bow, that's 6 exalted orbs. Considering most players only drop, a few maybe a day or a few a week, that's definitely going to have an impact on the economy. And this is not the only bow or only item that you do this with. Chest pieces, boots, everything is going to consume exalted orbs like this. So I expect exalted orbs to continue to rise in price. Overall, over the trajectory of the league, I think they will be fairly expensive because it's the primary way that you use harvest now, and it is pretty extreme. So let's talk a little bit about some other items so you guys can get a little bit more context. So let's say you want to make a physical-based weapon, and in fact, someone who I'm playing with, Crouching Tuna, is trying to attempt this. Let's talk a little bit how you would do that, and it also reveals some of the harvest nerfs and the impact of those on crafting. So first of all, if you're trying to make a physical-based weapon, here is how we're planning on doing it, and loosely, you can kind of, obviously maybe there's a better way, but this is how we're going to do it. So let's say you wanted to make a physical-based bow. You'd start off with a blank bow, and you would roll with alterations all the way until you hit hybrid physical. So this is basically going to be the one which is, accuracy and physical, or, physical and something else. And then at that point, you need to fill up the prefixes using a crafted modifier or, suffix to prefix or anything like this. And then you need to use fracture 3. Or you can actually use fracture 5, but, that is also way more RNG. But you basically need to fracture that hybrid physical modifier on the weapon. And then that locks it in place. It cannot change. But getting that fracture is incredibly difficult. Right now, harvest crafts are incredibly scarce. Getting a fracture modifier is very, very hard. I think that we were talking about it. And if you go on TFT right now, there's a fracture prefix like once every 12 hours or something like that. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. They're very, very rare. This could be a product of people just not doing harvest, It could be a product of people not using TFT. I don't know. But the access to all of these, big crafting kind of good ways to craft is very, very limited right now. So maybe we'll see more people farm harvest. It may be very lucrative. I think that we were paying 5 exalts for it. So it's very, very expensive. But you basically need to fracture that hybrid physical roll. And then once you have that locked in, the weapon is actually pretty close to being done. So yeah, when you get that, then you need to use a deafening essence of contempt on the staff or on the bow or whatever you're doing, and that's going to give you a close to tier 1 modifier on your weapon. It's very, very good. It's pretty much a guarantee as well. Well, it is a guarantee. And then you want to look at the mods you have. Are they acceptable to you? Do you need to annul some off? You kind of need to tinker with it. And then at that point, after you've finished tinkering with it, you want to fill up the suffixes. If you want, like if the suffixes are the way you want, you need to basically get the suffixes to a place where you're happy with, and then have one open prefix. And then at that point, with the open prefix, you need to do, I think it's ageling in betrayal, and get the unveil, the slam unveil. Basically, it slams a veiled mod on your item, and that's going to allow you to unveil it, and you're going to hope that you unveil a high percent physical roll. It's not incredibly uncommon to unveil this, but it's also certainly not guaranteed. And if you do not hit that unveil back to deafening essences, you have to use more deafening essences until you get the suffixes that you're happy with again. You need to tinker with them, and then you can obviously fill them up as well using crafts and stuff like that, and then finish them later with a multi-mod. But you have to get suffixes to a place where you're happy with, and then you go back to betrayal and get another veil, and then boom, unveil it. Hopefully you get a high fizz. But essentially what this would end up with is a close to T1 modifier of the flat, a close to T1 of the physical percent, and a T1 hybrid roll, and that's going to give you a very, very powerful physical based weapon. And then you can, mess with the suffixes however you want, whether it's a multi-mod, you could have cleaned them. There's all sorts of options there. I haven't made the weapon, so I'm not 100% sure what you want to do there for what's most optimal, but it is also an option. I want to quickly talk about some other gear pieces here. If you want to do stuff like the chest piece, you can awaken a robe, two of the hardest influence modifiers. And then, for example, on chest pieces, if you're trying to get base crit, if you're trying to get, curse, these are actually deterministic. You can use meta locking like we did on the bow. Prefixes can't be changed, suffixes can't be changed. And then you can also, slam on curse guaranteed. So there is incredible options still available to us. It just really does consume a lot of exalted orbs. You can do a similar thing with elusive boots. You can slam on elusive using the crit reforge, using the meta locking strategy, and that is going to be a valid method. Elishar has put out a fantastic video on crafting boots. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check that one out too. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed some insight into crafting. Oh man, I'm really sorry about my voice, guys, but I really did want to continue to make content. Hope you guys don't mind and have enjoyed the video and learned something new. With all that said, until the next one, guys, hopefully you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.